So what we're going to talk about today is that we are going to work on talking through what PBL looks like, but I want to preface this by saying, as a previous teacher that's still very involved in education, I don't want this to come across as like, this is the way to do it, because there's so many ways that you can approach it. And hopefully today, when you leave, you will feel like you have something to take. This is not like a shaming concept or this is how the only way is to teach this concept. I don't want to come across like that, because I definitely know there's all kinds of ways that you can teach this and approach this, but this is the way that I have been doing it. So there's my little caveat before we get started. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat as I talk. If something doesn't make sense or you have questions, like, I want you to feel that you can talk to me during this and feel like this is also your webinar for you to also input whatever you think maybe was helpful as we go along. So without further ado, let us begin. All right. So first and foremost, my name is Chauntée. I am the Learning and Development Specialist for STEM Education Works. I previously was an educator. I taught, what did I teach? 3rd grade, 5th grade, 8th grade. And then I also taught STEM for an elementary school where I helped build curriculum and teach kids about the STEM concepts, mainly using the engineering design process, which is my personal favorite. You'll probably hear me talk about it a lot. If you haven't yet, get ready, because you will hear about it. Anyways, so what we're going to do is dive in right off the bat and talk about what is PBL. So understanding what that looks like, the foundation of PBL. I think one of the biggest things for me as a teacher approaching this is understanding that everyone obviously learns differently. I know you've heard this 1,000 times. I'm not speaking to people who don't know what I mean by that, but how do we make it more student-centered? How do we make it more engaging for kids to want to learn about it? And that's the biggest thing that I have noticed with my students. When it becomes a project that they like, all of a sudden it's everybody is on board and excited about it, and ends up taking more time than I intended it to, which is its own thing. As you know, time is a very precious thing to us as educators. So I know it can get scary, but it's really exciting to watch the kids take full ownership of their learning, which is what I feel like PBL does. I think the biggest difference is that as a teacher, and I know a lot of you are going to relate to the need to feel like you have some control in the classroom, because that's what we're trained to do, is like have control in the classroom, lead it this way. But giving the kids a chance to have some guidance is really hard for us. It's hard for us to let go of, and that's okay. It's little baby steps. Just giving up a little bit of control every once in a while and allowing the kids to kind of drive is the idea between it. So I would say for me, it's giving what I said, and then also just applying knowledge to something that makes a little more sense to them, that's real world, that's building off of stuff that's around them. And they're seeing not just this is how you add, but this is why you need to add. And we'll get into a little bit more of that as well. But that's, again, my approach, my opinion to that is just understanding how to make our classrooms more approachable and how to make it more fun for the kids. And learning can be fun, but learning sometimes is not always so fun. And being okay with that is also a thing. So with that, just talking about how to take STEM and PBL and combined, which I feel like is a pretty easy thing to do, because STEM is already taking 4 different topics and combining them and creating this new concept or outlook of how to learn, but giving the kids real world problems, something that is interesting to them. And usually, which is hard to do when you're taking standards and trying to make them make sense to fit into this idea that the kids want to do. So sometimes it can be really hard to open it up to the kids. I would say that is something you can do. You can say, let's discuss it as a group and let the kids have more authenticity in this. But I will also say it's okay to not to start out. Like, sometimes it's easier to say, I'm going to do it this way. I haven't done it before. And then let's see how it goes. But just researching how PBL actually does increase students' attendance rates, because they don't want to miss a day of the learning, because they're important to the creation of the end result. Giving them deeper conceptual understanding of what they're learning about is a big part of STEM-PBL. And then also developing their 21st century skills. But what I am going to do, and I know that most of you probably have at least gotten this knowledge of what PBL is. This is probably not new to you, and you're like, cool, Chauntée, great. Now what? I am going to show you how I take a lesson apart and like the way that I use it to show you how I approach it. And you're welcome to use anything I have on here as we work through it. So what does it look like to have authenticity in your classroom? Is giving the kids the opportunity to connect to the world around them, to the community. Bringing in people from the community is really exciting for them too, to allow for people to feel that they're a part of what's happening in the education system, that are in the community, that can contribute things that maybe we didn't even realize they had to offer us. All we had to do is ask, which is terrifying for me. Like, oh, hey, would you like to come to my classroom? Like, who wants to walk into 30 kids, a fifth grader staring at you? That's a scary thing for people who are not teachers. But making those connections, getting the chance to give the kids real engaging work that feels like a real job in a real world scenario of something they can actually do in their future. Giving them that voice and choice, allowing them to have inquiry themselves, like picking, hey, well, what about this aspect? And oftentimes what I have noticed when I've done PBL is that the students will take the concept I'm teaching and say, oh, well, what about this look of it? Or what about this approach to it that I hadn't even thought of? And then it does lead us into another part of it, which is fun to listen to. You just never know. I've done like a whole kids city with my students before, where they've built all the different parts of a city. And then this one kid said, well, what about the laws of the city? And I wasn't planning to do any history or any of that like law with them, but that's what they wanted. And so here we went. But just giving a little more opportunity for that. So connecting it, what I begin with when I start to create these lessons is starting with like a core concept, a standard. What standard is it that I'm wanting to teach? And if I'm being honest with you, I pick a fun standard to start with that I enjoy teaching. So that way, when it comes time to start working on it, it's more enjoyable for me. And it is a risk. It is a big undertaking to start, which is why I want to show you how you can start really small. And I say, if you're doing one thing different, you're already doing more than you did before. So yay. It's going to be messy. It's going to be not clean your first time as you learn how to do it. And I'm not going to lie and say, oh yeah, all of mine have been amazing, because no. When you have a group full of third graders that you're trying to get excited about volcanoes, which you think would be exciting, and suddenly you're the only one excited, not a very fun environment for me. But I learned, okay, how I'm approaching it is not working, so we'll try again. And that's the way that I've approached this has helped me, but I'm not going to lie and say that I haven't been frustrated with it sometimes. But you're going to take that authentic challenge and you're going to give the children and students a chance to plan and investigate. Okay, if this is a real world problem, this is the thing happening within our community or whatever you choose to take on, let them investigate it and say, okay, here's some things I want to learn about in that aspect of it. Constant feedback, just feedback from the kids, from yourself, giving yourself a chance to just reflect on, did this work? Did it not? What can I do differently? Just like you do with every other lesson. But this is a little comparison between what I feel like is a traditional approach and what is more of a PBL approach to just a basic activity. I'm going to use Microbit because that's my favorite technology, but the idea of teaching kids how to do this certain assignment that's predetermined, like, oh, we're going to all make this flashing heart. And everybody does it. And everybody learns a concept, which is great. Or giving them a chance to take that and say, oh, we're creating this wearable monitor. This is what we need it to do. Can you figure out how to make it happen? That to me, and I know you guys are going to understand that if you're a teacher, is really hard to do, because we always have this like end goal result that we have to reach. And sometimes bringing in this other stuff is really scary. And like, what if it doesn't work? What if it's a disaster and I wasted 2 weeks of my time? That's why I say, again, just to pick, it's just a small thing. It doesn't have to be this big project. It's just an approach difference of seeing how it works in your classroom, what didn't go well, how are the kids responding to it, just to give yourself a little bit more grace and freedom to know, okay, this is not it for my group. And as you know, every year it doesn't look the same. when you work really hard on a project and then you're like, okay, next year we're going to do it. It's going to be amazing. And then you have a class of kids that are like, not our thing. Kind of devastating. But that's the idea of like taking those traditional things and showing them a different approach to still learning the same concept, but giving them the freedom to say, well, this is what it's going to look like, but I'm still going to get that end result. For instance, taking already created data and having them compile it and understand it and read data. Instead of doing that, giving them a chance to collect data of some sort. Maybe they're interested in the stock market, which would be a really good one for them to go after and dig deep into and take that data and know how to arrange data. That to me is a little more meaningful than just saying, here's some data, learn how to work with data. They get to choose what kind of data they want to work with. When I did that in my classroom, I had kids that were really excited about taking the 3-point shot average between different NFL player or NBA. I do know the difference. And just letting them compare them and knowing, oh, this is the average this year and that year. And they do the mean, median, and mode that way, just giving them a little more meaning behind it. I'm going to pause just for a quick second before we dive into this template, which I will send to you guys to use. It is my favorite template. But are there any questions so far? Any comments? Anything that anyone is curious about so far? Contributions, subtractions? I'm okay with that too. I can handle it. Just check real quick, make sure there's not anything in there, and then I'm going to show you these handouts that I use. But if there is a question, please don't hesitate, even if I move on, to ask. All right. So this is the PBL planning design template that I've used previously when I did a whole research in the summer with this. I took a class with Fisher Educational Resources. They did a whole thing with me and a bunch of people I knew, and we got to write lessons through this class that we took. Yes, it says TEKS on the screen. If you're from Texas, you know what that is. I am originally from Texas, so that's why it has the word TEKS on there. And that's just our state standards. I know everyone has their own. But what I have done is with this I've gotten together with other teachers who teach other topics and said, hey, this is a standard I want to teach, but I want to do a PBL project. And I was hoping that you and I could collaborate and you could teach some of it in the room, the parts that apply to you. I can teach some of it, and it's just going to be this one unit. That's a really big undertaking. Yes. And it's a lot of work, but I will say the load was so much easier when I said, oh, you want to do it too? I was the math teacher. The science teacher was like, I'm in. The English teacher was, I'm in. So getting that group together and being like, okay, you take this section of it and let's see what we can make it happen, honestly was the best way I approached that. I mean, I would love to do it independently because I can do it myself, of course. That's the attitude I know that some of y'all also feel is like, no, I got it. I can do it. Yeah, I've got this. But it was a heavy load. So don't feel like you have to take it all on at once, but also be okay with if you have people you like to collaborate with, do it. But just picking some standards that you want to cover, coming up with what's the key points of the standards that you're trying to get. Obviously, just like you're writing a lesson, I do driving questions, kind of summarize what the standards need to cover in that summary part so I can make sure as I go through it, am I hitting what the kids need to know and what they already should know, or do I need to add stuff to those columns? Just going through that and talking about it with my team was really helpful. Listing it out, creating that summary, and then taking that and doing a cumulative project concept. So what is our end result going to look like? And then, of course, creating those pre and post assessments. Honestly, the assessment part, if I'm being 100% for me, I didn't do a lot of assessments. I did more of just using rubrics, doing group assessments as we worked through them. And then I would do like middle assessments and end assessments. But most of the time it was feedback. I'd sit with the team and say, how are we doing? Where are we at? And then they would be like, oh, this is where we're working on, this is what we're learning. And if I needed to kind of push them in the direction that they weren't headed in, that I needed them to get to for the learning aspect, I would be like, have you thought about this? Just to kind of get them in that way. And that's okay too. Again, so much grace for yourself when doing this. I didn't do that, which is why I keep saying that, because I'm like, no, this has got to be, it doesn't. It doesn't. We're doing something more than what we did yesterday. And that's what we have to say to ourselves. But the rubric part to me is the key to the success of the activity of the project is giving the kids an expectation that's set for them. I've done rubrics as a group together of, okay, what do we want this project to look like? But I've also done it by myself. It just depends on my class, as you know. But coming up with the rubric and then also giving them a chance to do a presentation on the project at the end. My students weren't great at presenting like that because they hadn't done it very often. And I feel like it was a huge help making them explain, what did I learn from this process? Where am I with this? What were the key takeaways? What were the pros and cons of working with your group? Just getting them a chance to kind of reflect and talk about it. I've had the principals come in and watch it with my students before. I've had parents sometimes, depending on what the project was, and if it felt like one that was like, yeah, let's have a parent night. But I have this. This is a very basic template, obviously. But I also did not want to overwhelm myself when I was working through it either. So I kind of pick and choose what I would do with that. Okay, let's just be real straight up with ourselves. And as educators, I know you understand time constraint is just almost, it's probably the most stress that I felt as an educator is like, oh my gosh, I had this much time to cover this much stuff. How do I make it work? I'm going to tell you, starting out, time is going to be hurting a little for you. But in the end, it ends up looping back around and giving you more time back. Every time? Nope. Not even promising that. But again, lots of grace, lots of opportunity. Take it small, just little things at a time. Maybe it's just one standard you hit and they approach it differently. Fine. I'm not here to tell you that you have to make this a huge deal. It's, again, just the approach to what you're teaching and giving the kids a lot more say-so in what they're learning to make it more meaningful. Yes, it's going to be a problem with time. Limited resources. I mean, we know that's always a thing. I've had parents just donate a bunch of recyclable stuff, and we've used that before. I've reached out to companies depending on what it is. But in all honesty, you also can have these projects not require all these resources. It can just be research and paper and creating presentations online or recording themselves. I've had my kids present to other like companies in the community and saying what they're doing, what they're working on, and then said, how can we include you in this project? And then usually companies are like, oh yeah, that's so cool. I haven't seen that before. But I will say that was what I did. But I also will tell you, it's okay to not have any extra resources to do this project. An end result doesn't have to be a physical prototype. It might just be information. Obviously, classroom management can be really chaotic. I'm not going to tell y'all anything you don't already know with that. Depending on the group, you're going to have kids who are focused and who are less focused. You're going to have kids like me that have ADHD that are going to get really hyper-focused and irritable because you want to get it done and then suddenly not be any help at all to the group. And it's a horrible thing to process and figure out how to make it work for everybody. But you're doing that every day. So I don't feel like the classroom management thing is necessarily a problem, hypothetically, of course, because you're doing that no matter what activity you're doing in your classroom. So practical tips I would recommend: community. I know I brought that up before. Get places involved. If you can reach out to any community, you'd be surprised how many companies actually are like, oh my gosh, no one's ever asked me that. Because it does take time to reach out and be like, hey, do you have time to meet and set that up? It's a lot of work. I've requested parent volunteers sometimes to help me. Sometimes I haven't because I don't have parent volunteers. It really just depends on the class and the school I'm at. But yeah, as much as you can, there are places that want to give. They do. So reach out to those. Using technology. If you do have technology in your school, kids usually want to use it, especially if it's 3D printers and things like that. So incorporating that into it is a way to use resources that don't cost money because you already have it at the school. Or again, reaching out to companies to see if they'll purchase some of this stuff for you. Developing authentic assessments, just like I was saying. I really just use reflection stuff and presentations and then rubrics because I'm trying to save myself also the incredibly load that grading is, and having a rubric that everybody has to meet that, as you know, is a little easier sometimes. And then, like I said, start really small. Don't feel that you have to take on this big project. Take it a little bit at a time. Pick something, try to align it if you can. Use technology if you have some. Try to incorporate one little thing that's different than what you've done before in teaching this concept. To me, that has been the biggest thing, is giving myself the permission almost to say it's okay if it doesn't work, which is not fun and or easy to do as an educator because, again, time, pressure, all of that is like, whoo. But I feel like the more I tried a little bit at a time, the more comfortable it gets, just like anything else. I was gonna say like riding a bike, but then also I haven't ridden a bike in such a long time. I'm not positive I would know how to. So we'll leave that analogy out of this, just in case someone decides to quiz me and know if I actually do know how to ride a bike or not, because not sure. Anyways, action plan. So what now, right? Okay, cool. This is a lot of information, which is also part of why I was a little worried about doing this, because again, it's just content, and not as much show off stuff, which can be heavy. But just taking a unit, I have told teachers before when we've talked about doing long-term planning together and I've worked with them, is like, bring to me your worst standard and let's see if we can make something happen with it, because you already don't want to teach the standard. You already are struggling with it being interesting. So starting with that one might be the approach. I personally, like I said before, I started with a standard I loved because it was more interesting to me. But some people are like, well, this is not working no matter what, so why not take that one and attack it? Which is also fine to do, obviously. Giving yourself those open-ended driving questions, you want to motivate the kids, like, to want to do it. And if you don't feel that momentum, you're gonna already know right away, like, this is not it. I could feel it, the energy, and then I could feel when the energy was less, and I'm like, okay, we're wrapping up this project. It's not going anywhere else. Which sometimes it would last for weeks, and sometimes it would be like 1 week, and okay, guess we're done with that. But I have had lots of students reach back out to me after the fact, which I know y'all probably all have too, where it's like, oh my gosh, that lesson was so fun. I remember it when I was talking about in college something, and I was like, oh, I learned about that. I remember that activity. It's very fun to hear them bring that up as they progress through learning how to be an adult in a real career. It's fun to see. All right, that was that. There's a lot of information, like I said, and hopefully you gleaned a little something new from it. If you didn't, please share what you do have that maybe looks different. Again, this is my approach and view of how I started out. I struggle as someone who was an educator with like approaching this in a way that I'm not here to be like, oh yeah, look at me, I've got all this together, because no. And if you've ever watched me in my classroom, which I'm sure there's some of y'all who are in this that have, you'll know that there are really good days and really horrible days. So I'm not here telling you guys like, oh, I've succeeded, because no. But I will say that it has been such a help to me as a teacher, learning how to take these and create something a little more meaningful for my students. And then in the long run, watching my scores go from these students that were scoring like low 20s to scoring 50 something percent, which is still not passing, but is huge gap of jump between where they were and where they are. And just seeing that and realizing like, okay, this is showing something. It's not where I want it to be, but it's not where it was. So give yourself all the grace, because I'm telling you, I know I left the classroom, but I also very much feel for you guys as you're doing what you're doing, wherever it is, trying to bring better activities for kids, or trying to enlighten students for their passions and helping them find that. So I just say thank you. And also, if I can help, learn at STEM Education Works is my email address. Reach out, let me know. If I have something, I'll share it with you. If I don't, I'll give you some type of direction to go to. Let's see. but let's address some questions. So what steps can museums take to implement PBL in very short time slots, working with new families daily? Great question. And that one is a little bit more tricky. I will say this is mine. And if anyone wants to pipe up and say something differently, I would love that. But in those types of situations, I actually do the engineering design process and I don't do full PBL lessons because to me, the engineering design process takes them in that route without going full in, where it's like, hey, here's a short problem that we are going to solve. And they solve it in an hour. I actually have activity cards. If any of my coworkers are on here that can tag you in that, we have some activity cards that I have created that kind of show you that concept. And we could send you some samples so you can see that if you wanted to. But they're just cards the kids pick up, try out the engineering design process, and solve a problem on their own using different technologies. And then it's like an hour long at the most for them to fulfill that activity. It's still some choice in it, but it's more like, here's what's going on, use this technology to solve it. And to me, again, it opens it up a little more where they're getting some freedom to create their own solution, but it's still more balanced. But that's my approach to that. I would say if you don't have the capacity to do full projects like that, that's a way to do it. You also could just take it one or the other. But yeah. Oh, look, Sarah put it in there for you. But I do feel like in the museum setting type place, you might want to use more of the engineering design process. That's my opinion on that. Big PBL projects are great and amazing, but not practical for everyone. So that's my 2 cents. What other questions does anyone have? Thank you for that question, Jennifer. Hopefully I gave you some direction. I think Sarah put that in there so you can go there and see the sample, try it out, let me know. I'll take any and all feedback because as I write these in my mind, they work. And as you know, in your mind and application don't always work. So I love feedback from people as they're actually trying them out and being like, this doesn't work. How can I make it better? So I love feedback. Give it to me. What else? Anything else I can answer and or things you might want to add to what we've talked about today? It's fun to feel like you're just talking to yourself the whole time. So I wouldn't be mad to have somebody say something, so I feel like I'm talking to somebody. So thanks, Jennifer, for making me feel a part today of this. Yeah. So next month's webinar is on 3D printing. I'm going to kind of dive into Tinkercad a little bit and in the ways that you can incorporate 3D printing in your classroom when you have full class full of kids. 3D printing is a little bit scary for a lot of people when it's talking about, 30 kids that you're like, how do I print something for all of them? So we're going to look at some ways to do that for next month. So hold tight to that. You'll get an invite if you so choose to join. Love it. If not, also fine. You will get a certificate. Please feel free to ask questions as I talk because I have a problem with uncomfortable silence. So I'm just going to go until no, just kidding. We will send you a certificate with that information for your attendance today. In there, you'll also get a recording of today's session so you can use it if you so choose. And also a link to register to the next month's webinar. So if you would like to do that, great. Yay. Oh my gosh. Thank you. This is great. You've affirmed approaches I do with students and shared some new things. Yay. That's what I was really hoping for. I was hoping this is not a way of like, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything wrong. Or of like, oh, what am I doing right? And how can I maybe tweak it a little? Okay. Renee said, I just finished an attempt at a PBL where we had the students build. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to. We asked for feedback today and they all were not happy about having to do a presentation component to the project as well as the build. Do you have any advice for how to manage that? Yes. Okay. Okay. So I would say in that realm, let me think for one moment. I have done catapults with my students before, and I changed the wording to launching device instead of catapult, which sounds crazy, but you would be surprised how many kids came up with something different that still did the same concept. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but I had to throw that in because I loved seeing the difference. But I will say also the project part and the presentation part can be gruesome. So what I have done is made sure that every team has a creative person on the team, that is more interested in that part of it. Everyone has a job, just like I would do with any other class. So it's like you have the people who are the note takers, the people who are the speakers. And I make sure that the people who are in those positions are the ones who are the best fit for those positions. So that helps a lot when you have that presentation part. Um, the presentation is just a pulling teeth sometimes, but I've also let them do like little trifolds instead if that was more fun for them. Sometimes it's more fun to have like printouts and create a little way of showing it that's not just a presentation. Because I have a lot of kids that just didn't enjoy them. I mean, I've also made them do them, if I'm being honest with you. So you can also do that, but it just depends on the approach. I feel like I'm not helping you, but maybe question mark. Let me know if you feel like I hit it or not, but you can also email me if you feel like I'm not making sense, and maybe if I typed it out, it might help. Yes. Oh, Ronell saying Tinkercad and Kai's Clan. If you haven't heard of Kai's Clan, it is a really, really great tool to use if you want to bring in AI, VR, AR into your classroom. And we will talk about that one coming up. PBL Worlds. I'm not sure I understand what the question is. I'm not sure what PBL Worlds is. Is that like a company or is that like an actual thing or am I misreading it? I'm not positive. What is it like? Oh, I've actually not been to the actual conference. Mine was more of a virtual attendance one that was like a week long or so, I think it was. Um, it was at least a week long, and we did it virtually. It was amazing, truly. And I got to be partnered with other amazing educators that were from different states. And we really fully built, like, each group built curriculum, and then we all shared it with each other. And I left with like so many projects. So while I'm here saying, like, oh, yeah, I've made these, I've also taken some from people who've made them and used them. So I would recommend it, honestly. If you are interested in trying to do it and you really want to get into it, it was worth it. Yeah, I think I even got a stipend when I went. So that's also a win. What else you got? Anything from anyone else? Hopefully, Renee, I helped you with that question. I feel like I just went on a merry-go-round, but if I did, please let me know and I'll help you if I can, or get you in touch with someone that can hopefully help you with that. Because I have a friend that's really good at those as well, and I know she'd love to look at it with you. What else? Everybody content enough? Any questions, comments, concerns? I'm not going to make you stay, but you also are welcome to stay as long as you want. I'm not going anywhere. So, yeah. Anything from anyone? Preguntas? I enjoyed talking about it. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed hearing some of that. Like I said, I'm just talking away about things that I'm really interested in. So it's fun for me. Sorry, I enjoy it. Yeah, if we do the project again next year, I'll email. Okay, perfect. I love that. Yeah, if you try out projects and you want to share, I will highlight them all day, every day. Because honestly, the work y'all do is pretty amazing, and I am in awe. That's what I'll say. So thank you for what you do. In case you haven't heard today, you are appreciated. Yay, thank you. Oh, I'm glad it was helpful. Thank you, Gretchen. And thank you, Jennifer. Really appreciate you guys coming. Appreciate everyone's input, and hopefully you left with a little information. And if you didn't, I'm sorry, but also share with me information if I missed some stuff, because I'll take it. But if nothing else, oh, good. Okay, wait. I definitely am going to address everything. Thank you for this. It's hard to not feel like I'm doing enough, but every step in the direction of PBL counts. Exactly. And I think it's really difficult. And I'm speaking as someone who was a single teacher with no kids or animals or anything to go home to. And I would stay longer and do these kind of things. And I was like, this is where I feel like it's hard, because I have the energy to do it, but I have lots of friends that are married and have children and have lives that they're trying to go home to. And so that's when I feel like that's the place where I don't want people to feel like you have to meet this standard. Don't feel that way. Like some of us have more energy than others, but you have other things you got to do. And it's okay. Oh, good. I really hope that you guys feel that Renee was saying it's nice to hear your honest feedback regarding highs and lows. I'm going to be real because that's what I think you guys deserve to be spoken to, like, because that's how I want to be. But give yourself a break. I'm saying that to myself as well, because we all need to remind ourselves that a little bit is better than nothing. And if showing up to work and giving a smile to the kids that day is all you got, killing it. It's okay. Yeah. Just let me know if I can help in any way. I hope that you enjoyed it. If there's anything I can do to help you guys out, let me know. Outside of that, oh wait, we got another comment. We just started CTE classes in MS. Wait, Mississippi? Yes. My dad's from there. And we had a group of students in entrepreneurship pitch to the admins that they wanted to take over the snack machines. One of these kids bought his first snack machine to own his business. I said the business, oh my gosh, running the school snack machine went out of business, and PBL is great. I love that. That's amazing. See, and these are the kind of things that make it worthwhile. Sherry, thank you so much for sharing that, because honestly, that's amazing. Oh, middle school. I thought you were saying, my bad. And you think I would know what MS meant? Yeah, here we are. Middle school. That's so fun. Seriously, I would love to see pictures of that. So if you think about it and you want to share, I wouldn't be mad. Yeah, yeah, middle school. My bad. I was getting all excited about Mississippi, and then yeah. Thank you, Deborah, for coming. Really appreciate it. All right, you guys. Until next time. Bye.